The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase in 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, known as North America. And we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers.
Hello and welcome to the Hamilton Network's 2022 Provincial Election Debates, presented live by Cable 14 in partnership with the Hamilton Spectator. I'm Mike Fortune, and once again, I will be your moderator. For the next 90 minutes, we're featuring candidates in the riding of Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas. And joining us live in studio tonight, Siam Chandra from the Green Party, Shubha Sandhill from the Liberal Party, and Sandy Shaw from the New Democratic Party. Thank you all very much for being here this evening. And of course, we invited the Progressive Conservative candidate running in the Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas riding to participate in this debate. However, as you may have read in the Hamilton Spectator, Fred Bennick declined our invitation. Also running in Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas are Frank Thiessen for the Ontario Party and Lee Weiss for the New Blue Party. Our format for this broadcast includes 2 minutes each for the candidates to make an opening statement. Then, our local media panel will be posing questions with one follow-up opportunity before any other candidate may also ask to speak to that particular topic. And finally, we will wrap up with a 1-minute closing statement from each of our candidates. Viewers at home, if you are watching live, please tweet us at Cable14 or email election@cable14.com to share any questions you'd like to ask of our candidates tonight. Now, I'll be doing my best to keep us on track with what's expected for each section and how we're doing for time. So, without further delay, let's get started with our 2-minute opening statements. If needed, you will get a 10-second warning before I call time. Representing the Green Party, Siam Chandra, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good evening, Hamilton. It is a pleasure to stand in front of you and ask for your support. It's an honor. I've been in Hamilton for last 22 years. So I've been a teacher. I've been working with Mathematical Association of America. I never thought that I would run for a political office, right? I've been a Green from 7th grade holidays onwards, right? When I got in love with nature, and so I've been working. I've been working as I started my Green career as a tree hugger, graduated to a environmental activist. Then maybe I moved to North America 25 years back, and I would say that I became I matured into a more and I'm moving around, talking about green issues around the world in my capacity as Mathematical Association of America's director, talking to the students. But what made me come to the politics and stand in front of you and ask for the thing is it's an event that happened several years back. 2 years back in Mumbai when a student asked me, "What am I? You seems to be very passionate. What are you going to do about it?" Right? So then I told her about my story in Hamilton, my work with Hamilton Car Share, my work with the churches and my youth workers. my work in mental health area, all those things. But she was not satisfied. She asked me, what about policy? What about governing? So it made me think, and so we had 2 years to think about it during the COVID time, right? So when Chelsea called from Green Party of Ontario and asked me whether I would consider to run, it was an easy answer. So I started working on that and moving forward.
Siam, thank you very much for that opening statement. We do appreciate. We will now continue on with Yeshua Sandhill of the Liberal Party. Please, your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Shubha Sandhill, and I'm your Ontario Liberal Party candidate for Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas. First and foremost, I'm a mom to two daughters who I raised right here in the Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas riding. I have an interdisciplinary background in academia, and I also ran family businesses when my kids were younger, and I have also been involved with board governance with a multitude of local, provincial, and national organizations. More recently, I joined the global board of White Ribbon Alliance, which is an organization that works towards women's health issues around the globe. I have a PhD in urban geography and a master's in globalization from McMaster University. Having lived in the riding of Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas for nearly 30 years, I have seen hardships being faced by the residents in this riding, and especially during the last 2 years of COVID-19, which has laid bare many harsh realities for local seniors, students, growing families, and more. It has also shed light on the existing inequalities in our healthcare system, small business support, affordability, the environment, education, and childcare. The people of Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas deserve better, and this is why I put my name on the ballot. I have been involved in civic engagement through local riding associations. I have also engaged with Ontario Liberal Party through Ontario Women's Liberal Commission, overseeing 17 ridings in Southern Ontario, and I have also sat on Equal Voice Canada's national board. So these are all the organizations that have inspired me towards civic engagement and civic leadership. And I think the limitless possibilities in this riding of Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas require a strong voice at Queen's Park.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. Do appreciate it. And finally, in our batting order, number 3, Sandy Shaw from the New Democratic Party. You are up.
Thanks very much, Mike. Thanks for having me tonight. And I want to start by thanking my fellow candidates for showing up tonight. It's really, really important that they be here. So I want to show my admiration and respect for you being here tonight. I also want to thank some of Hamilton's finest journalists that are gathered here. I'm looking forward to your questions. And finally, I would just like to say thank you to everyone that's joining in tonight. It's important to hear all of our ideas for building a better Ontario. I am Sandy Shaw. I'm the incumbent MPP for this riding, and it has been the honor of my life to be able to represent the good people of Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas. And we've all been through so much in the last 4 years. It hasn't been easy for many of us. We saw government that came to power that started to cut the things that matter most to us before, during, and after a pandemic, cuts to our health care, cuts to the education system that our kids rely on. We saw a government that assaulted the environment, any environmental protections, and denied essentially the urgency and the reality of climate change. But most tragically, we saw almost 5,000 seniors lose their lives in long-term care, largely preventable deaths if we had a government that acted with urgency and with leadership. And we know these deaths were exacerbated by these large multinational for-profit corporations that failed to protect our seniors. I walked into Queen's Park every day for the last 4 years knowing that we could do so much better. We can invest in our health care. We can take the profits out of long-term care. We can grow the Greenbelt. We don't need to build a highway through it. And these are the things that I'd like to talk about tonight. This is the hopeful vision that we need here in Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas, and across Ontario.
Sandy Shaw, thank you for that, and thank you to all of our candidates for your opening statements. Now it is time to bring in our local media panel. With us for this debate tonight is Scott Radley for the Hamilton Spectator, Rick Zamper of 900 CHML, Bobby Rostova of CBC Hamilton, Al Sweeney from CHCH, And of course, Val Cole is back from Cable 14's The Hamilton Network. Each of our panelists will be choosing a candidate to answer a question. They'll have the option to ask one follow-up question based on the response, and then we will open up the question to any of the other candidates here who may wish to speak to it. All of your responses will be limited to 1 minute. I'll give a warning when your time has run out. Our first question comes from Mr. Scott Radley of the Hamilton Spectator. Scott, you're up.
Thank you very much. And Siam, Shuba, Sandy, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us this evening. As the incumbent, Sandy, I'll come to you first on this one. And I think for many, many people, and you probably hear this at the doors when you're knocking, affordability right now is right at the top of the list for people as far as their concerns go. And we see the gas prices every day going up where they're now over $2 a litre in most places. And your party has said that what it will do in part to help control this is to regulate gas prices. Now that won't be, we will not be, if you win, the only province in the country that regulates gas prices. New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, PEI, Quebec, they all do this. And if you look at the average prices in those provinces today, New Brunswick's price, $2.03, Nova Scotia, $2.03, Newfoundland, $2.28, PEI, $2.09, Quebec, $2.12. Every one of those provinces with regulation is higher than the average price in Ontario. So why would regulating gas prices actually help any drivers and any people here?
So you're absolutely right. Affordability is a huge issue, and people that need to fill up their tank and get to work need relief. We have seen Doug Ford promise to reduce the gas prices by 10 cents a litre. That didn't happen. And so we need someone to take action to address this. Regulating gas prices is something that we can do. It can fall under the Ontario Energy Board, just like we regulate natural gas prices. And, you know, we have Doug Ford's plan, essentially I would call it a gimmick, to reduce the gas prices by 6 cents a litre for a short period of time. That is not a solution. That's only a short period of time that's going to happen. We need to get the power of government to take action. We need to make sure that this 6 cents that comes off a liter of gas, there's no guarantee that these large oil companies aren't just going to pocket that money. So we need regulation. It's possible. We can do it. And we also need to stop the gouging. I mean, all of us, it's a long weekend this weekend. So we know the same gas that was in the tank yesterday is going to be 10 or 15 cents more on a Friday. Those are two concrete actions that we can take to make life more affordable for people in Hamilton and in Ontario. And that's what we need a government
Sandy,
to do.
That's your 1 minute. Scott, if you like to have a follow-up, it's all yours.
Yeah, I would. And I think actually this long weekend the prices went down if I checked. But nonetheless, so you called it a gimmick that what the Ford government says they're going to do with cutting fuel taxes. But still, that's something that goes into the people's pocket where the regulation across the country doesn't seem to be doing that. So if it's a gimmick, is it not still a gimmick that would put more money back in people's pockets?
Well, it remains to be seen if actually if actually that cost will be passed on to consumers. There's no guarantee. When we take that 6 cents a litre off the price of gas, that loss, what is the guarantee that oil companies won't just pocket that difference? There's nothing. The government needs to regulate it. Doug Ford talks a big game, talks tough. He says, I'm going to talk to the gas companies, I'm going to talk to the insurance companies. But we need laws and regulations that protect consumers. And so, you know, I'm happy to hear that the price of gas went down this weekend. That's pretty good news. But it has nothing to do with Doug Ford's time-limited 6 cents a litre off gas prices. That is just the kind of gimmicks that this government seems to want to govern by. We need regulation. We need the government to step in and protect consumers.
To the rest of our candidates who would like to engage in this particular topic, regulating gas prices, please go ahead, our Liberal candidate.
Respectfully, I disagree with Sandy's comment about the gas prices. So in affordability our platform, Ontario Liberal Party's platform, we proposed $1 for transit. For each transit, doesn't matter whether it's GO station, bus ride, and in a riding like Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas, where we have McMaster University, Mohawk College, and we have a lot of people who use the transit. That was a great plan, which NDP, by the way, opposed. We are removing HST off the prepared food under $20, which is going to make again, prepared food under 20 people buying sandwiches, rotisserie chicken. That's going to affect the everyday life of many people. We will pay for the initiative with 1% surtax on highly profitable companies with over $1 billion in profits and individuals with taxable income over $500,000. We also raised, by the way, the second one was also opposed by NDP, 20% ODSP increase over 2 years, $1,000 pension top-up for our seniors.
Time for your 1 minute. We would now like to open this up for further debate.
I would like to, as Green Party is proposing to, I know the gas price is so out of reach for most of us. When I tried to fill my car yesterday at Costco, I mean, it was almost $91, right? Normally it used to be $70 to fill my tank. Mm-hmm. It is not possible for me or my family to go forward like this. So one thing we are proposing is so let us reduce at least for the time being, let us reduce the transit cost, right? That is one proposal we are putting forward. There's a temporary relief which we can handle. That's all.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that when it comes to supporting the most vulnerable in our community, the people that are living in the deepest poverty, we had Mike Harris that slashed OW and social assistance rates. We had 15 years of Liberals that did essentially nothing to raise those rates. They were essentially frozen in time. At the very end of their term, they came up with a small increase to OW and ODSP rates. The provincial government, Ford government, came in and slashed that meager amount in half. And we know people in our community, we all know people in our community that are living in this kind of deep poverty. They can end up homeless. They end up struggling just to go to school or to raise a family. And so, it's something that we're committed to, raising people out of poverty. After, 15 years of Liberals and Conservatives doing nothing, it's time that we address the people that need help the most in our community.
Sandy, thank you very much for that. I'm being told that we have to move on to our next question from our next media panelist from CHCH, Al Sweeney. The floor is yours.
Hi. Ms. Sandhill, I'd like to address my question to you, please, and it's about the Liberal record. People may be looking at the Liberal platform. They might see a lot in there that they like, but they think if they vote Liberal, they get the same gang that was thrown out 4 years ago. So in 2014, the Liberals were elected with 58 seats. They had a majority government. Their behavior was so bad that in the next election, 2018, they got 7 seats, not even an official political party. They were branded with scandal and corruption and particularly arrogance. Now, can you say, this I understand is your first time running for the legislature, but you said you've lived here for 30 years, you saw what happened. Has there been any formal change in the Liberal Party to ensure that that kind of thing does not happen again?
Thank you for your question, and it's a great question. I think away from all the policy platform, that's one question I would love to answer because I've been asked on doors as well, something very similar. I got involved in politics in 2013, 2014. I canvassed with our MP Philomena Tassi. I worked on MPP Ted McMeekin's campaign. I used to be both of their fundraising chair. But for last 2 years, I have worked very closely with the party as Ontario Women's Liberal Commission VP for South Central Ontario, where I got to meet people in 17 ridings. We have a new leadership. We have a new vision, and I have seen our leaders work firsthand in those 2 years when I worked with party centrally. We organized town halls all across Ontario to hear from grassroots what went wrong in 2018. Our plan that has been put forward, it has taken hundreds and thousands of consultations. We have had town halls across Ontario. We have also asked people to vote on our policy platform. So the policy platform that you see...
That is the 1 minute to answer that particular question. Mr. Sweeney, if you would like a follow-up to our Liberal candidate, Ms. Sandhill.
I'd just like to follow that up. Your leader, Stephen Del Duca, was a cabinet minister during Kathleen Wynne's government for that entire time. He was sitting at the cabinet table when these decisions were made. The Mississauga gas plant that cost $1 billion of taxpayers' money. How can we trust the Liberals not to do that again? I mean, you've had your meetings,
Yeah.
but it's the same people.
I think if you look at our platform, not just our platform, which was actually created by the collaboration from grassroots members of the party from across Ontario. And secondly, I would say if you go on our website and if you look at our candidates, we have doctors, nurses, teachers, healthcare workers who are running as candidates for our party. And all the candidates were divided into squads, and each person with the expertise in a specific field was working on that particular platform issue. So for example, our healthcare policy, we have a doctor who used to sit on Doug Ford's COVID advisory committee. He resigned and he's running for our party. We have healthcare workers, nurses who finalize, people with specific expertise in that field who actually finalized our platform. So I am a big believer into looking at the positive side of things. If I look at the old government's record, I am carrying forward with me as a candidate that we closed out the coal plants, which are, as an urban geographer,
Ms.
I
Sandhill,
would
that
say,
is your 1 minute for that particular question. Now, what we will be doing is opening that question up for debate. If anybody else would like to stick to Mr. Sweeney's question, it's open for debate. General discussion, please.
I would like to add a little bit point. I'm not here to defend liberals, right? Of course. But this is a systematic problem we are facing all over. Not only any liberal party is what we call as the official party of ruling party of Canada, right? When a party becomes big, when it becomes big, all these problems will come in. I mean, it is happening not only here. Look at in England, everywhere. What the solution to that is young people getting involved in the politics, right? Go and take positions, like work on it, right? Vote, right? That is the only way. If liberals are not working, vote them out. So that is the power of democracy should be at work. That is the Green Party's and my personal position.
It remains to be seen if Stephen Del Duca has learned the error of his ways. But I will just say that when this government lost power in 2018, we have to remember the legacy of what was left behind. I mean, this is a government that also cut health care. We had hallway health care when this government left office, and they also began the privatization of long-term care, which resulted in some of the tragedies that we saw. So there is a lot of the Liberal record that has left a legacy that we are trying to, that really just set us up for a Ford government that came in and continued to drive down the idea of privatization, privatizing our healthcare, privatizing our energy system. I would like to believe that the people of Ontario, people of Hamilton, share that skepticism, because I'm not sure that they've seen the error of their ways.
Final word to Ms. Sandhill. You got 1 minute.
Yeah. So I would just say to Sandy's point, again, respectfully, that a lot of work has gone into rebuilding our party. We have re-energized, we have rebuilt, and we have youth. We have 50%, more than 50% women candidates. We have new vision and we have new leadership. And I'm hopeful about the future, especially with our platform and especially parts of platform that I'm really passionate about.
Thank you very much for those conversations regarding that question from Mr. Sweeney. Now from CBC, Bobby Ristova, you are up.
Thank you. My question, I'd love to hear from all of you on this. McMaster University has seen recent allegations of sexual violence and systemic racism. The Green Party said it would impose a province-wide set of standards to improve campus safety. The Liberals said that they would give campuses money to try to sort that out. The NDP party said it would give them money and compel them to update their policies. Can each of you offer a specific set of policies or a use of that funding you'd like to see to make campuses safer?
And with that, let's start with Siam.
As a teacher, it's a great question. It's as a teacher and spend time in the campus in McMaster itself, this is a very, very serious issue, right? And Green Party, we have specific, in our policy statement itself, we have specifically addressed the racial inequality and all those concerns. Definitely, like one of the key things we should be looking at when it comes to the racial injustice and all those things, anything which is happening, we need to really focus on that and address that.
So it's your 1 minute, Ms. Shaw.
So these stories are so disturbing. We send our kids to school, to McMaster, and we want them to be safe. So any kind of violence, any kind of gender-based violence is disturbing and needs to be addressed. I think that we need to understand not only do the McMaster University need the resources to address this, like it needs to be said that Doug Ford has cut funding to universities. That Doug Ford cut student choice initiatives. Some of those student choice initiatives had programs, like sexual assault programs. McMaster even had a program where people could call if they felt unsafe and someone would accompany them from their classes to their cars. And that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of investment that was cut with Doug Ford. So we want to make sure that universities have the resources to address that, but also that students themselves, we need to embed in curriculum, we need to embed in policies the education around sexual violence, and we need to make sure that we're investing also in the kinds of sexual assault centers and that we need to help us understand this problem and to get ahead of it.
That is 1 minute. Thank you. Before we get to Bobby's follow-up question, we will let Ms. Sandhill respond.
So I would say I teach courses at York University, and I've taught courses in law and society program, especially based on gender and law. And part of the 2 or 3 weeks of studies are about sexual violence. So I know that rape myths exist in universities. I know that sexual violence is something that's so prevalent. York University had a big issue with that. And I think university like McMaster, which is actually my alma mater, I would say could learn from that. So we took great initiatives at York University to establish sexual harassment centers, making complaints easier. But I think this is a problem that's across the board in many universities. So I think the stricter laws would be very important. I think education, very important. In some of my courses, I remember showing the videos about some organizations where male allies
Ms. Sandhill, that is
talk
time
about
for the 1
sexual
minute.
violence.
Bobby,
So that
if
helps
you
as
have
well.
a follow-up question to that particular topic, please fire away, my friend.
Well, I have a different topic I want to bring up. I think all of you would be interested in answering this. What bodies or institutions do you feel bear responsibility for the Chedot Creek sewage overflow, and what consequences should be in place to guarantee that doesn't happen again?
We will start with Sandy Shaw, and we will have everyone have their opportunity. Ms. Shaw.
So the tragedy of Coots Paradise is something that will live with all of us for a long time. It was an environmental disaster in an environmentally sensitive and protected area. We know that. There are, not only did the actual system fail, the actual, the waste and wastewater treatment fail, it failed because it's old and because we need to replace it and we need to invest in good green infrastructure. It was a failure of the actual mechanics of the system. It was also a complete failure of the oversight regime, not only at the municipal level. I mean, the city of Hamilton did what they did. It's quite clear. We know what they did. But it's my role at the province to understand that the province was also responsible for oversight. They're the ultimate oversight body. And the province knew precisely at the same time as the city knew, and they also did not disclose to the people of Hamilton. So my answer to this, was that I moved the Coots Paradise Accountability Act that would make sure that the province has the duty to disclose, not just in Hamilton, but across the province. Further to that, we need a provincial water strategy that looks at ways to protect all of our water and our waterways, and we need an investment in good green infrastructure to make sure that this doesn't happen here in Hamilton or in any community across Ontario.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Shaw. Ms. Sandhill, your response?
Yeah, so I would say again that our municipalities have to put stricter measures in place. And I think I really appreciate Sandy bringing up that bill. And I hope something concrete comes out of that. But I think at the end of the day, in a city like Hamilton, which is called a city of waterfalls, we have so many water bodies. I think stricter measures are needed through legislation. And I think municipalities will have to be much more responsible moving forward. And I think we have a municipal election coming up. So I think that could be an issue that needs to be taken into account there too.
Mr. Chandra?
We need to hold the provincial and local government accountable for that, no doubt about that. And I applaud Sandy's work towards that, right? From my personal side and from party side, right? Definitely. And not only that, I mean, when you think beyond that, there's a systematic problem, with this provincial government. They are not transparent, right? When we are looking at not only in this issue, right? There's a kind of hidden agenda for all these things. What is going on? We need to ask them, make things more transparent, right? We need to know what is going on, right? So thank you. That is my response to Mike. It's a great question.
To all of you, thank you very much for your responses for that. We will continue on now with our next media panelist coming up from 900 CHML. Back for a second night, Mr. Rick Zamper. And Rick, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me back again. Siam, Shuba, and Sandy, thanks for coming out. We know that many people in Hamilton have a decision to make on June the 2nd or earlier if they're partaking in advance polls, and this is an important process in that. My question is to you, Siam. The Green Party has been around it's going to be 40 years next year. It's held one seat in all that time, and that's current leader Mike Schreiner. Can you speak to the relevancy of the Green Party? Why should Ontario voters consider a Green on Election Day?
I would argue in two different ways. One, look at our record, right? Governance record, not only at an activist record. That is one thing which made me to stand with Mike Schreiner, right? So the things with one member on Queen's Park, how much we were able to achieve, right? So look at that. I would encourage voters to look at what our federal MPs are doing in the parliament, right? Mike and Miss May, what they are doing. In governance also, we are very, very serious. That's coming back to my opening statement, the question the girl asked. I mean, we cannot be always angry. I remember I was an angry young man, but we matured. Our party matured. I would say that trust us, we will deliver.
Follow-up, Mr. Zamper?
Follow-up to that is many Green MPs, MPPs have said that Ontario's green economy has to be accelerated, and the other two can follow up on this as well. How do we do that? How do we accelerate Ontario's economy to meet that green economy in the years to come?
So I would answer it in a way that, we have to find a new solution to our old problems, right? And the climate change or the climate economy is a huge opportunity for Ontario, right? To take the leadership role in the world, when it comes to EVs or anything, right? We can expand our economy so much.
We will now open this topic for debate. I saw a hand here first, Ms. Shaw.
Yeah, thanks. And so I for the last 4 years, I sat in the legislature. Mike Schreiner sits really close to me, so we share, ideas. We've shared outrage at some of the things that this government has done when it comes to our climate. But I just have to, and I appreciate what they have to bring. But if we want to move on some of the things that Siam just talked about, new green economy, we need a new government. And we need to elect people that have a really good shot at forming government. And I believe with the Ontario New Democrats, with 40 incumbent MPPs, we're in a really good position to do that. We also have put out our Green New Democratic Deal, which is climate, jobs, and justice. It's a really achievable, bold plan to do just that, address the economy and address, the environment and build an economy, a thriving economy. And we had that out for about 2 years, and I'm very proud of it. And I would just say that we appreciate everyone's ideas. Everyone, when it comes to climate, it's not a partisan issue. We need everybody's good ideas on the table, but we need a new government that takes this seriously.
So I would just like to add, first of all, the notion that NDP won 40 seats in last election, so they can win again. I think NDP hasn't played a very effective role as official opposition in last 2 years. During my role in Ontario Liberal Party, I have seen our party standing up to Doug Ford every step of the way, almost playing the official opposition role. In terms of our climate plan, again, like I said, we have transit that is going to take 400,000 cars off the roads. We are going to cut carbon and methane pollution by more than 50% by 2030. And we are going to create 25,000 green jobs and provide new support and training for workers. And some of these plans and the ideas actually have been opposed by NDP by canceling a carbon tax rebate to 75% of households. The NDP is increasing cost to Ontario families by an average of $500. NDP's pledge to go back to cap and trade would also put Ontario through its fourth carbon pricing system in 4 years.
Ms. Sandhill, we would like Sandy to respond to this before we have to move on.
Well, I would just have to say that the Liberal and Conservative plan for the environment has shown to fail. I mean, there was nothing worse than the Liberals meddling in our energy system, selling off and privatizing our hydro system, and signing privatized contracts that did drive up the price of energy. We're still paying the price for the Liberals meddling in our energy system. It needs to be said that we subsidize, the people of Ontario subsidize private energy companies to the tune of $7 billion a year based on some of the work and some of the meddling, again, that the Liberal government has done. $7 billion subsidizing private hydro providers. That's more than we spend on long-term care. So their record on the environment is not credible.
Final last comments.
I just quickly...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just quickly wanted to add to Sandy's point, don't forget the legacy of closing out all the coal plants, which are so good for our environment, and also don't forget the green belts that were created by Ontario Liberal Party. So,
Mr. Chandra, final word to you, sir.
Like, I would say that we need to double the size of the green belt and should include the blue belt. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much for that. We will now continue on with our questions from our media panel. From Cable 14's The Hamilton Network, Val Cole with a question one of our viewers submitted by tweeting us at Cable 14 or through email election@cable14.com. Val, you are up.
Thanks so much, Mike. This question is from Rick. It's to all of our candidates tonight. What is your party's position concerning Hamilton City Council's decision to respect the community's desire for a firm urban boundary?
Ms. Sandhill, we will start with you and we'll go through the rest of the candidates.
Okay, so that's a great question. And I would say that very first meeting that I had as soon as I became the candidate was Agriculture Federation of Ontario. When I've been door knocking in Dundas for last 3-4 years, I think one of the biggest movement coming out, every household has a sign of Stop the Sprawl. So our party's point of view, and in our policy platform, you will see as well that we respect municipalities and their jurisdictions, and we are going to go with what our councillors have already decided, no urban sprawl. In our housing plan, we are planning to build thousands of houses to avoid the housing crisis that we are facing right now. And we are going to build those houses within those boundaries. So we do, Ontario Liberal Party does respect municipalities' decision to go forward with that plan.
Mr. Chandra?
We need to freeze the urban boundaries and build 1.5 million homes. The whole idea should be, the focus should be on homes, not highways, right? Stop the sprawl is very, very important for Green Party, right? Mike was here supporting Stop the Sprawl movement. He's going to be back here again. So freezing urban boundaries is absolutely important for us.
Wonderful stuff. Ms. Shaw.
So I'm proud to have stood, shoulder to shoulder with the Stop Sprawl movement here in Hamilton. And I just have to say it's a movement made here in Hamilton that is spreading across Ontario. Other communities like Halton, other communities are standing up to this government to stop the urban boundary expansion. And why is this such a big deal? It's a big deal because we shouldn't be building on agricultural land. We lose 175 acres of farmland every day. And we saw during COVID how important our food security system is. So why are we building? Why are we building on agricultural land? Why are we building in areas that are going to cost taxpayers more because they have to support the infrastructure, pay for the sewers and the water lines that development doesn't pay for. That's why it's a big deal. And finally, you know, we know that urban boundary expansion has been called, you know, Ontario's tar sands. It will just drive up emissions. So this is a big deal. But I would just say we've seen a government doesn't respect any municipality's decision, and
that
we
is
will
time,
do
Ms.
that.
Shaw, thank you very much. We do have to move on because of time. Thank you very much. We got the busiest guy in media right now, Scott Radley. We got to get him back to the Hamilton Bulldogs game tonight. Scott, you are up for the Hamilton Spectator.
This question is for Ms. Sandhill. We had another shooting up on the mountain this weekend. It was not very long ago that Hamilton police said the number of handguns in Hamilton on the streets was alarming, was their word. Your leader has said that he would like to ban handguns in the province. But the chiefs of police about a year ago were testifying in Ottawa at a committee and said it's not legal handguns that are the problem, it's illegal handguns that are coming across the border illegally, obviously. So the borders are federal jurisdiction. The criminal code, which already has laws against illegal guns, is federal jurisdiction. What's your role in this?
So if you look at most of the shootings that happen, my daughter lives in downtown Toronto. Every time I hear of a shooting, I'm so scared. I think it's a everyday occurrence in GTA, especially in some areas, and Hamilton as well. So I think closing that loophole of handguns, a ban where we can work, and I think this is something our leader has said in the platform as well, that we'll be working together with the federal government, because there needs to be immediate actions that need to be taken right now, because of the amount of shootings that are happening almost every other day, and the amount and same thing, I would repeat the same thing what Stephen Del Duca said when he announced this particular policy measure, that one death is one too many for any community member who loses their family, who loses their son or daughter. So we need to take immediate action, and I think this plan was applauded by many people.
Mr. Radley, follow-up question?
Yeah, no, and I 100% agree. One death is too many on this one, but we already have a law in place. If a criminal is willing to take the chance to go to prison for up to 25 years for using a handgun under the criminal code, even if you were to put in provincial laws, is that going to deter anybody? Is a second concurrent crime that they're going to be charged with going to make anybody stop trying to use the gun if they were going to use it anyway and take the risk of possibly being caught? How is this going to stop anybody?
I think because the guns that are coming from the border, but the guns that are within Canada, they have been used in the crimes that are happening almost every other day. So I think if immediate action is not taken by the provincial government, this will continue, right? So I think all these incidents taking place within Ontario, within the big cities in Ontario, Ontario does need to take some concrete action, even if it's some parts of it is federal jurisdiction. But this is something Del Duca said, that he's going to work with the federal government to put stricter measures in place.
Scott, thank you very much for that topic. It's a hot one right now. I know we want to get in debate with this. Mr. Chandra?
I want to add something very personal to me. Gun issue is very personal. I lost 2 of my students to gun violence in last 2 years, right? In Iowa, right? Where I spent considerable time teaching and working there, right? So it is not only I'm sure that the gun control and the federal and provincial work is very, very important. Along with that, there is a role, public and awareness, and poverty is also an issue. All those things combined together, we should have a very serious effort towards understanding why gun violence is happening.
Ms. Shaw.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Scott, when you say that this is about illegal handguns. My grandfather used to always say a lock only keeps out an honest person, and I think that applies in this situation. And everyone in Ontario deserves to be able to feel safe in their community, safe in their homes. Policing and addressing gun violence That's a component. Another really important component is looking at the root causes of this kind of violence. I mean, there was a report commissioned under the Liberal government to look at the root causes of violence. It really is just sat on a shelf and hasn't been enacted. And also we have, the Ford government that has cut programs in communities, right in some of the low-income communities in our urban areas that we're doing all kinds of work to keep kids off the street, to keep gun violence down. It's not just the policing, it's the community supports that we need to address this terrible, terrible crime. And honestly, Siam, I'm so sorry to hear about that. That's a terrible story, and I'm really sorry.
Final comments?
I just wanted to quickly add to both what my colleagues have said here. I think criminalization and racialization of not just poverty but also marginalized population, that plays a big role in the justice world as well. So I think it's very important that we put mental health support services in place as well. And in Ontario Liberal Party's plan, you'll see there are so many incentives for mental health support services for youth, for people for young children in school as well, because I think we need to find the root causes of the problem.
A topic that we are all very concerned of as parents and, of course, our children. Thank you very much for that. Back from CHCH for his second go-around, Al Sweeney, the floor is yours.
Hi, Ms. Shaw. I'd like to quickly address a question to you following up something you were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. This is your respect for municipalities, which is fine, but if you were elected to government, would you actually bring in legislative change to ensure that the province can't overrule a municipality anytime it doesn't like what the municipality is doing, or send it to the Planning Appeal Tribunal, knowing that the Planning Appeal Tribunal could do the work for them?
So there's two pieces to that question, and it's really so timely because of the Ford government and the way that he's just really big-footed all of our municipalities. I would say that, we saw during the very first thing that I saw in Queen's Park was him cutting the city council in half. I mean, there were people on the lawn all night long when he was trying to bring in the notwithstanding clause. So that kind of disrespect is something that we don't share. I mean, our leader served as a municipal councillor here in Hamilton, and she respects and understands that role. In our platform, we would bring in legislation that would prevent government from meddling in that regard. And I would say when it comes to the Ontario Land Tribunal, we need to understand why are municipalities not having the control? Why are their decisions being just so overridden at the Ontario Land Tribunal? We need to bring balance into that Land Tribunal to make sure that it's not just developers that have the heavy hand there and that are making decisions for our communities and our municipalities, because really it's our councillors, it's the people that live closest to that level of government that understand what we need in our communities.
Okay. Mr. Sweeney, follow up a question to that?
Okay, there's a different topic. Let's talk about COVID for a second. Mm-hmm. So we've been living with this for more than 2 years now. We don't really know whether it's going away or whatever is happening. Now we've got this monkey pox. Who knows what that's going to turn into. We saw great social upheaval during the past 2 years. Part of it seems to have been that people felt that decisions were being made without them getting sufficient information on these decisions. Doctors were making decisions. They elected politicians to make these decisions, and the doctors seem to be making the decisions. Ms. Shaw, if we had another pandemic like that, and the doctors came to you and said, we should shut down the economy, we should take children out of school, we should take people who are on a waiting list for health care, we should push them aside, what would you say?
Well, I think that we all know that this was an unprecedented pandemic, and that, like you talked about, there was times when we all knew we were in this together. I mean, I think we have to look back and think about how frightened we all were and how little we knew at the time. And it was unfolding so quickly. The pandemic was unfolding so quickly. We have to go back to when we couldn't even get vaccines, we couldn't get tests, and we had what I would call, a leadership vacuum with the Premier. There's so many times when people were calling my office not knowing what the rules were, not knowing what to do, not knowing where they could get a vaccine or where they could get a test. People were frantic, and we received all of those calls. And so there was not political leadership shown at all, and this government even chose not to listen to their expert panel. So what I would say is we need a government, we need a leader that would step up and show leadership and not hide behind other medical officers' advice and take the advice that's given us to lead us out of this.
Sandy. Now, Mr. Sweeney asked two questions there, so we would like both of our candidates that haven't answered yet to answer to those quickly. We will start with Ms. Sandhill regarding the municipalities, and then Mr. Chandra, and then we'll go back to the COVID question. So please, go ahead.
So municipalities, I would say again that yes, municipalities do have their own jurisdictions, but at the same time, there are certain matters. For example, housing. We are planning to work with the municipalities to free up the commercial land that's underused right now to build more housing. So we do need their support. At the same time, we are providing funding. Do you want me to answer the second question here?
If you would like.
So in terms of COVID-19, yes, a complete vacuum of leadership, like Sandy said. But at the same time, I would say that there was a complete lack of action on part of opposition as well. So they did not hold Doug Ford to account for the kind of actions he was taking. PPE was going to private schools, not to the public education system. There were disparities in vaccine distribution. So I will again come back to the intersectionality. This pandemic was the hardest on people from marginalized communities, and this brought out the disparities, existing disparities, and it kind of enhanced those disparities.
Mr. Chandra?
We are missing the government representative here. Both this question would have been, we should have been asking the question to the PC representative. I'm sure that he have his own reason not to come, not to show up here, right? This might be one of the reasons. Anyway, choosing to side with science should not be a confusing question, nowhere, right? In my, as a person, a man of science, I don't believe, that should be even an option. But the problem with what we faced last 2 years, not only in Canada, in the United States, around the world, is how politicians handled the information, how it was being distributed to the public, and how we were the entire media, entire politics, the way which we handled the situation was a major issue. From my perspective, as a communication specialist and working on with the student, I believe that there was a miscommunication from all of us, from the political side, from the media side, from everywhere. We created a confusion, and that confusion created the problem. Thank you.
Mr. Chandra, thank you very much. Both two very big topics there. Hopefully, if we have a little bit of time, we will try to get back to the municipality one, but we do have to continue on. So, Bobby Ristova from CBC Hamilton, you are up. The floor is yours.
Thank you. This question is for all of you. In the 90s, a doctor right here in Ancaster, Dr. Hugh Short, was shot by a man targeting abortion doctors. We're now seeing debate arise in the U.S. over abortion rights. Do you know how accessible abortion services are in Hamilton, and at a provincial level? Do you need to expand here in Hamilton? Do you need to put more funding into that?
Please, let's go with Ms. Shaw on this, and we will go down the row here.
I remember that very clearly, and I will just say that right now there in the province, there's a lot of division in the province, and there's a lot of hard edges, and I'm not happy to see that. I think that we need to make sure that we're having civilized dialogue, that meet each other where they are. So this is a trend that I would like to see arrested here, that we don't go down this road of the kind of division that we're seeing and the polarization that we're seeing in the United States. When it comes to access to health care and sexual health care, we have a government that's cut that kind of funding. They cut funding to rape crisis centers. They cut the blue panel, the blue ribbon panel on sexual health and sexual violence. So yes, absolutely, we need to invest in a gender-based healthcare. We need to make sure that we don't go back to those times for women and for women that have stood shoulder to shoulder to bring us to the place where we are now.
Bobby, do you have a follow-up to that question, that specific topic, or can we let our other candidates go with that?
Not to that topic, no.
Okay, wonderful. Let's have, to that particular question that Bobby asked, let's go with Ms. Sandhill, and then we'll go to Mr. Chandra.
So I would say very good question, and I'm really passionate about that field. I just started sitting on the board of a global organization that works in women's health and especially reproductive health. I know that Ontario Liberal Party, there was a gender wage gap day where there was a big debate. That was the very first debate that was organized between three leaders. And of course, Doug Ford wasn't present in that debate. That day, Stephen Del Duca announced the plan about women's health care. And I think exactly to your point, that abortion clinics, more funding to them, more funding to menstrual products, more funding to sexual violence treatment centers, those kind of funding is available, and also for shelters.
Mr. Chandra?
The entire last 4 years, it has been cut, and cut, right? So if we, coming back to the abortion clinic and those issues, if we manage the cuts and focus on the status quo, that should be the way which we should be handling the issue.
Are we going to have any further debate on this particular topic? Anybody else like to say anything else? We have
I can just talk about gender wage gap. That's one thing that we haven't, because I relate women's health to so many different issues that are kind of correlated. Women have worked in care system where their work is undervalued, underpaid, and then sexual harassment. We earlier talked about what happens in universities, rape myths. Societal change is so important, but at the same time, government legislation, I always say nothing changes unless laws change.
Right, yeah, thank you. So we don't want to go too off topic with that. Thank you very much for those comments, though. Are we going to the prompter? Yes, okay. Just trying to get what's going on here, folks. But now, before we continue with more questions from our media panel, any candidate not invited to participate in our debate tonight was provided with the opportunity to record a statement. Here now is the pre-recorded statement from the new Blue Party candidate in Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas, Lee Wise.
Ontarians are more divided now than ever. Extreme government overreach has isolated us from each other for over 2 years, placed us under a medical tyranny where doctors are threatened for exercising their own professional judgment and straying from the public health narrative. Honest, hardworking Ontarians have lost their jobs through mandates, and small businesses were driven into bankruptcy. Kids have fallen behind at school, and mental health has declined dramatically. Basic necessities are unaffordable. We've lost control over our lives and our government. I want to get it back. For the past 2 years, I've witnessed how the government, all the major parties, and our elected officials have disregarded the rule of law and our basic civil liberties and pushed their unified narrative. They've moved in lockstep together with only one single voice of dissent, the New Blue Party. I'm a working mom and wife, and I love my community. I'm not a politician. I'm in the trenches with you every day, and I know the impact this corruption has had on us all. If elected, I will work hard for you and pledge to listen to you and follow through with the New Blue platform. End the mandates and passports, lower taxes, reduce government spending, improve education, and fix our healthcare with common sense solutions. The New Blue Party is new, and that can be scary and exciting. We don't have the corruption of the establishment parties, something our party leader, Jim Caralios, is famous for combating. Read our platform online, and I hope to hear from you with any questions and concerns you have. We are offering Ontarians a choice this election to restore freedom and prosperity to Ontario. On June 2nd, vote for me, Lee Wise, with the New Blue Party. Thank you.
Lee Wise, thank you very much for that pre-recorded statement. And we were chatting behind the scenes here. We want to hear what Bobby's second question is. So back from the CBC, Mr. Bobby Rostova, floor is yours, please.
Thank you. My second question, all the parties here have pledged to build more housing, That might not necessarily bring down the price of housing very much, though. And we know here in this riding, students going to McMaster are looking for affordable housing. So what solution do you have to reduce home prices besides just building more homes?
As this is open to everybody, we will start with Mr. Chandra.
We must build 1.5 million homes that provide more choices for the people, such as triplex, fourplex, walk-up apartments. We need to clamp down speculation because homes are for people, not for speculators. We propose to invest $1 billion each year to build 182,000 affordable community rental homes, including 60,000 supportive homes over next decade. So that should be that is the answer I would have.
Ms. Sandhill?
Yeah, and I think I would start with rent control, something that Doug Ford got rid of. We are going to bring that back. And we are also trying to include in there a path to ownership through legal frameworks for the people, for the renters who want to go take that route, rent to own agreements. We are investing $1.5 million in new home built over next 10 years, which would also create 150,000 new jobs. For that, what we are planning to do is Ontario Liberal Party wants to have Ontario Home Building Corporation to finance and build much needed affordable homes. Tax homes, again, like Sam said, for speculators, tax the properties that are not being used by either Canadians or non-Canadian owners. Also introduce use it or lose it tax on developers sitting on lands which is ready for development, and ensure condo flippers pay appropriate taxes. So those are a few of the measures that we are going to take.
Ms. Sandhill, that is time. Ms. Shaw?
So the issue of housing in Hamilton is really troubling. If you're a young family trying to buy a house, young people can't afford homes in the neighborhoods they grew up in. We also see people that are renting, the cost of renting is skyrocketing. We're also seeing people being rent evicted. It's a term that's new, but it means that people are being evicted from their homes and they're renovating them, and the rental costs are doubling in some cases. So we would put an end to that kind of pay what the last. We would ensure that people pay what the last tenant paid. We would also, to your question very specifically, Bobby, we need a mix of housing. We need to make sure that we have inclusionary zoning laws to allow good developers who want to develop along transit corridors, that will make sure that they are including affordable, truly affordable units in there. And we also need to understand that the students at McMaster, when they come here, they also have to pay those exorbitant rents. It's our responsibility as a community to make sure everyone has a home that they can afford.
Thank you to all the candidates for those responses to Bobby's second question. Now, of course, I want to bring everything in light to our viewers here regarding this broadcast, or who want candidates from their other Hamilton area ridings. You'll find the full schedule and all of our debates on demand at cable14.com, free for public viewing, and of course, sharing, all courtesy of Cogeco and Rogers. And don't forget, if you're watching live, tweet us at Cable14 or email election@cable14.com to share any questions you would like to ask the candidates. So as we continue our time for Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas, let's bring back from 900 CHML, Mr. Rick Zamper. Rick, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, Mike. Recent public opinion polls have shown that affordability, COVID recovery, tax cuts, the economy are the major issues. Healthcare is up there as well. Way down the list, surprisingly, is education. And sometimes when we have issues in education, it seems like the sky is falling. So I'll start with Sandy on this one. In terms of education, what is your plan to improve education here in Hamilton and across the province?
Yeah, it's such a important issue that we have to address, because we all know that schools are the heart of our communities, and we know that our kids have been through so much during COVID, and the teachers and educators and parents. So we have a responsibility to address the kinds of cuts to education that we've seen in our schools. Kids have had the longest lockdown in the country. we see that online learning is not working for them, we need to get them back into schools with adequate funding. We need to restore the funding. This is a government that just announced $1.3 billion more cuts to our public education. So we need teachers, we need supportive adults, we need to invest in mental health supports for our kids in schools. These are the things that our kids deserve. And more than that, we just need to look at the buildings. I mean, there's a repair backlog that was $15 million under the Liberals. It's ballooned under the PCs. We need to make sure our kids go to school in healthy classrooms without lead in the water, with proper ventilation.
Rick, a follow-up question to Ms. Shaw regarding that particular topic?
Yes, well, it goes hand in hand with education and the mental health of our students. We know that for 2 years, their mental health has been ravaged. There's many cases of depression, isolation, despondent students not wanting to go back to school, or at least certainly not in the hybrid model that they were subjected to. What will your party do to help our children going forward? Because there's now, in some cases, an 18-month wait list to get mental health supports.
Yeah, it's just shameful, because I'm sure we all know a young person in our life that is struggling with the kinds of anxiety and the kinds of emotional distress that you're talking about. McMaster Children's Hospital has been ringing the alarm about this before COVID and after. So we need to make sure not only are there mental health supports in classrooms, we need to make sure that mental health is universal. We want to bring mental health services under OHIP so people can have access to the mental health care that they need in a timely manner. And I just can't not address the issue of autism. The failure of Liberal and Conservative governments to address the autism file really is just heartbreaking. I watched autism families and parents on the lawn at Queen's Park, in the gallery, pleading and crying and asking this government to step up and spend the money to make their kids healthy again. That is something that we will address immediately.
Like to open this particular topic, education and healthcare, to the floor, please. Ms. Sandhill.
Yeah. So I would again say that Ontario Liberal Party's plan for education, I just had a meeting with the Secondary School Teachers Association just about a week ago. And I outlined this plan, which is great, capping class sizes to 20, which is very important. We are bringing optional grade 13 back, hire 10,000 more teachers, offer classes on mental health, financial literacy, taxes, and more. So one of those classes is about mental health and well-being, and the fourth conservative mandatory online learning, create high-quality online options for high school students, 5,000 more special education workers to reduce wait times for special education. In answer to Sandy's proposal of NDP's mental health plan, I would say I have heard from many people who actually go to the psychologist or take mental health services. Their plan offers $65 per visit, which is not even hardly 50% of the
response.
Yeah, I just want to talk about what we need to do in schools to make sure there's more supportive adults in our children's schools. And, with due respect to Ms. Sandhill, who's new here, the Liberal record in our schools is not very good. They closed 600 schools. They legislated teachers back to work. They actually broke the teachers' Charter of Rights. The province of Ontario was sued, and we as taxpayers are paying for that action that the Liberals took against our teachers. So, we need to make sure that we look not just to what the promises of this Liberal Party, but we need to look at what they actually did when they were in power and how they disrespected teachers and, by corollary, our kids in school.
Response?
I would say I might be new in the politics, but I have an entire very strong team of candidates running alongside me throughout Ontario who bring expertise in this field with them. And our plan that we put forward, it's through that expertise in that specific field. So we are planning to hire 1,000 more mental health workers for students and staff, make mental health first aid training more available to staff, free breakfast to students, and invest additional $10 billion. And that's one thing I'll really say, which is important, that we are going to put ventilators in the school by scrapping the amount of money that Doug Ford is going to put in Highway 413.
Mr. Chandra, I haven't forgotten about you.
Yeah. I'm done with this hybrid model and e-learning. I'm bored with in the classroom, not able to to talk to my students on a regular basis. I'm strongly support in-person learning, and I strongly oppose the mandatory e-learning and hybrid models. Coming back to the mental health issue, we propose that we all should commit 10% of our total health budget towards mental health. It's a very, very serious thing. Our wait time should be reduced significantly, at least for young kids, below 30 days.
Thank you very much for that. My co-host from the Hamilton Network is back for a question from the World Wide Web. Val Cole, you are up.
Thanks, Mike. This is from John in Ancaster for all of the candidates. The tidal wave rise to the cost of living is sinking seniors fast. What is your party's plan to equalize pensions for our seniors to a living wage so they can live stress-free for the time they have left?
Did you?
Please, Ms. Shaw.
So, just like our kids, our seniors have been suffered so much during the last 4 years, certainly during the last 2 years of COVID, and absolutely, seniors living on fixed income have been neglected. The cost of living, when we think about a senior, I had a woman that called me in my office to say that she was struggling trying to pay her hydro bill, and the cost of hydro, as promised by Doug Ford, has only gone up. So we need to look at ways that we can reduce costs from seniors. We want to make sure that low-income seniors have access to dental and pharmacare. We want to take, the privatization and the co-payments off the backs of the seniors who need to pay them and rely on those kinds of treatments and those kinds of medicines. But more importantly, what we need to understand is that they are living on a fixed income, and that we need to look at ways to make sure that they have a mix of income that allows them to live in the dignity that they have earned and that they deserve.
Mr. Chandra?
The dignity is the word I would also use. We need to invest around $6.5 billion to treat elders with dignity they deserve, including investing in non-profit long-term care, accelerating standard care, increasing home care, and a permanent wage increase for PSWs.
Ms. Sandhill.
So I can take on where Sam left off. We are planning to have minimum $25 wage increase for PSWs. I would say the plan that Ontario Liberal Party has put forward for senior care, that makes me very excited. As a candidate for Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas, where we have a large number of aging population, we are topping up old age security by $1,000, make sure more seniors qualify for the help by increasing the income threshold to $25,000 to single seniors, or $50,000 for couples, help them live independently. We are getting rid of, by providing more visits from PSWs, we are getting rid of for-profit home care, because care and profit don't go hand in hand. We will be bringing non-profit home care over the course of next 4 years. And I would say in terms of NDP, the NDP kind of rewrote their platform commitment to seniors, promising an uncosted, unclear property tax deferral. So every part of the platform...
Sandhill, thank you very much. We do have to continue to move on. I'm being told here by my producer, and we're getting word that the questions are so good from our esteemed media panel that we want to go through them one more time very quickly. One question each to our panel. You have a minute or so to answer the questions. So I'm going back to Mr. Scott Radley now from the Hamilton Spectator. Scotty, you're up.
This is actually to all three of you, and we've heard a lot about children, schooling, education, transit, health, mental health. Interest payments on Ontario's debt are the fourth largest line item on the provincial budget after healthcare, education, and social services. We are paying $14 billion a year to the banks to service the debt that we already have. And all of your platforms, and the Conservatives' platform too, not leaving them out, all bring in big new deficits that will add to this debt and add to the fees. Are we not, maybe by trying to help ourselves, but are we not leaving a giant credit card bill for our kids and our grandkids to have to deal with later on?
Mr. Chandra?
The climate investments we need to make in new solutions for our old problem I don't think we should be seeing it as a balancing the book problem, because that is going to create a huge opportunity for us. The economy is going to grow. In that way, it is going to balance on the long run. But at the same time, Green Party is strongly proposing we need to tax wealthy Ontarians, right? That is one way we can handle that. That is the way we should handle the books. Like the people who can afford should be able to pay, should be able to handle the situation.
Ms. Shaw?
So, absolutely, the debt and the deficit have ballooned under this government. And, it's interesting to keep two things in mind. While this government is ballooning the deficit, what is happening? We're seeing cuts to healthcare, cuts to education in schools, cuts to the things that matter more. So how is this government spending big, but they're not spending things on the things that matter most to us? And I would just say to keep in mind that this is a government that is all now going to spend between $10 and $15 billion on Highway 413 through the Greenbelt and the Bradford bypass through agricultural land. So, we all pay our taxes. We all pay our fair share. I think we need to look at what the government's spending their money on, and we need to understand we're paying our taxes. We need to make sure that they're working for us.
Ms. Sandhill?
Yeah, so I would just quickly say that the entire platform that you see from Ontario Liberal Party is fully costed, fair, and it's a forward-looking plan. And the fiscal plan is consistent with 2022 Ontario budget deficit reduction projections over the same period, but makes very different choices. This plan will put Ontario on a path to present a balanced budget in 26-27, just before the next election. And it maintains $3.4 billion in contingency on reserve fund in 2022-23, growing to $4.8 billion in 25-26.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that question from Scott Radley. Now up back from CHCH, Al Sweeney, your question to the panel, please.
So I'd be curious to hear what all three of you say about this, but Mr. Chandra, I'd like to direct this to you if I could first. We've got a horrible traffic problem not far from us here in downtown Hamilton. We've had numerous really, really tragic accidents. And the OPP report this is one of the worst years ever for fatalities on provincial highways. Now, my understanding is your party includes in its platform the program called Vision Zero to control traffic and get these accidents down. Vision Zero is in the process of being implemented by the City of Hamilton. It's been going on for some time now, and it doesn't seem to have made a lot of difference. What can we do about what's happening here to pedestrians and traffic accidents, collisions, and things like that?
It's a very, very serious issue, and we need to. One of the things which yesterday I was in Dundas, also I was talking about, we need to start thinking about how we are going to handle our transportation, fair transit, and we need to think beyond what we are looking at on the number of cars on the road, number of public transit, and all those issues come together. That is how we can handle that.
Ms. Sandhill?
Yeah, so I will bring the discussion back to what Ontario Liberal Party is proposing, $1 per ride transit plan that we have, which will take 400,000 cars off-road. Of course, it impacts the environment as well, but that is one thing that's going to also try to take care of the gridlock. Also, this will encourage people to take transit, go buses and trains rather than driving their car everywhere they go. In our plan somewhere, we also have about more funding towards the bike lanes and also more funding towards incentives towards people buying the bikes or motorbikes.
Ms. Shaw.
So I think it's 12 deaths we've seen on our roads, more than all last year. We all heard, the tragedy of Jude Strickland just walking home from school that was killed. Boris Broad, a notable Hamiltonian. every death is tragic, but these notable deaths bring to light that what we need to do something about this. I know that there is a Vision Zero. I know that we're moving slowly. I think part of the problem is that we have a provincial government that continues to download costs to our municipality. Like, our residential taxpayers can't continue to afford Doug Ford balancing his budget or pushing costs down onto the ratepayers of the municipality. I wrote to the minister, Carolyn Mulroney, have not heard back. I said the municipality needs the help of the province. We need to make sure that our vulnerable road users, our pedestrians, our cyclists,
Ms. Shaw,
our kids
that is
are
your
protected.
time. I'm sorry, but we do have to continue on. We'd like to get as many questions in as we can. To our media panel, if you could please keep your questions to point, and also to our candidates, your answers to a quick point. Back from CBC, Bobby Rostova.
This is for Sandy Shaw. Hamilton's reviewing statues and monuments. In Toronto, they were thinking about renaming Dundas Street. This riding has a community named Dundas. Would you consider renaming it?
So let me answer that like this. None of us, can change the history that we've inherited. And we know some of that history is very painful. I mean, when we look at the history of slavery in North America, it's hard to imagine when we look at the way we've treated our Indigenous communities in our province. We're still uncovering unmarked graves in former residential schools. So we know we have a painful history that we need to address. So while we can't change our history, we can certainly change the history that we want to leave behind. That's for us to decide. And I know Dundas to be a community of engaged, supportive, loving community members. And I would say that any decision about Dundas, that needs to be made by the people of Dundas.
Ms. Sandhill, your response to Bobby's question.
I would say yes, we need to bring the communities in consultations like this. Most of the plan that we have for Ontario Liberal Party, it takes equity, diversity, and inclusion lens into account in almost all our policies. And I think no matter what the policy is, based on the jurisdiction, if it's a municipal jurisdiction, or how municipal and provincial can collaborate on this particular topic, I think that would be very important. But the residents of the city itself are very important.
Thank you very much for that response. Mr. Chandra?
I fully agree with both of them. We need to leave those kind of decisions to the local community, no doubt about that. But the history, the mistakes or whatever was being committed earlier, we need to acknowledge that. We need to see that it is being discussed, it being acknowledged, but the decision of the name making and things like that, that should be left to the local community.
Bobby, thank you very much for that question. We'll now move on to Rick Zamper from 900 CHML. Quick question and very quick responses, please.
Yes, Ontario has a massive labor shortage, as we know. With life more unaffordable now than ever before, is a higher living wage a serious option for any of the parties? I'll start with Ms. Sandhill.
Yeah, so for that particular question, I would refer to our economic dignity plan. That has some of the best solutions I have seen to any issues that relate to workers. So we are bringing living wage. At the same time, whether it's healthcare workers or whether it's education workers, we are trying to get rid of Bill 124 that caps the salaries of workers. We are trying to get benefits for workers who work in gig economy. So if you look at our economic dignity plan, that has many incentives in there. Of course, we are also bringing basic income pilot project that was slashed by the current government in Ontario. Other than that, I think most of the benefits, portable benefits, are also included in that plan.
Thank you very much. That is time. Mr. Chandra?
I want to add just only one thing other than supporting what Subha was saying. I want to add that we need to implement a gig workers Bill of Rights plan. So that should address several issues around the question you had.
And Ms. Shaw.
So I would say that so many of us will know people that are working full-time, full year, at the minimum wage, and they are still well below the poverty line. We need to find a way to make sure that young people have good paying jobs. We need to make sure, we saw it in COVID. We saw all of the part-time workers, the frontline workers that were making such poor wages. We need to support them with not only a decent wage, but we need to support them with benefits, with paid sick days. That they deserve nothing less. And we need to make sure that we're moving young people, part-time workers into good jobs where they can afford to live and raise a family.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Shaw. Back by popular demand, Val Cole is back. Quick question, quick responses from our candidates as time is becoming our enemy here. Ms. Cole.
Thanks, Mike. Here we go. 3 of the 7 members of the Hamilton Police Services Board are appointed by the province. Should your party be elected, what abilities, training, and experience qualify an applicant, in your view, to be appointed to serve on the board?
Ms. Sandhill.
I would start with saying that federal government applies GBA plus lens to most of their policies. And Ontario Liberal Party similarly has applied equity, diversity, inclusion lens. I would say that I think it's very important to look at what kind of expertise people are bringing to the table. And if they're serving a community which is so diverse, I think that diversity should be reflected in the board as well. So I think that's one of my main points, I would say, about our current police services board.
Mr. Chandra.
I'd strongly agree with her on that. Diversity is so Hamilton has become a very diverse society. It's a multicultural society now, right? So this is a time we need to consider anything, any board, anything. We should have that representation, representing the diversity, representing the diversity of our community.
And Ms. Shaw, final question goes to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that the community members were disappointed with the last appointment. It didn't seem to reflect the diversity of our community. I know that Black and Indigenous people in our community want to see themselves reflected. We need appointees that have lived experience. They understand the depth of the community, and that they can bring that to the important role of policing, and that when they reflect what people's lived experiences, it will be better for all of us.
Getting through some rapid fire questions there, wonderful responses, and of course that is all the time we have now for our Q&A session. And again, thank you very much to our panel for this debate. We only have a few minutes left now with our Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas candidates, so we must move on to our closing statements, going in reverse order from our opening, 1 minute each, starting with Sandy Shaw of the NDP.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation, and I really want to thank the Hamilton journalists for those really challenging questions. It's really important. You do such great work here, so thank you for that. 4 years ago, I asked the people of Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas to entrust me with the huge responsibility of representing them at Queen's Park. And every single day when I rose in the House at Queen's Park for the last 4 years, I brought them with them. I thought of their concerns, their hopes, and their dreams, and I watched a government that wasn't reflected of the things that we need. And so I know that we can do so much better. I know that we can build a good green economy. I know we can take the profits out of long-term care. I know we can make life more affordable for the people of Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas. So I just have to say, on June 3rd, I know what my job is. Thank you for trusting me.
Sandy, thank you very much for that. Moving on now to the Liberal candidate for the Liberal Party, Yeshua Sandhill.
Thank you to the viewers, and thank you to Cable 14 for organizing this great debate. I'm thankful to Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas residents for many months of constructive conversations on the doors about climate action, our economic dignity plan, healthcare, education, and more. Ontario is in the fight for its life. Together, we can change the course of action in our riding on healthcare, senior care, small business support, affordable housing, childcare, education recovery, and environment, and more by electing an Ontario Liberal government. Our community deserves a strong voice at Queen's Park. On June 2nd, I would be honored to have your vote to be your next MPP for Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas. I truly believe that together we can build a better future for generations to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sandhill from the Liberal Party. Do appreciate that closing statement. And finally, Siam Chandra from the Green Party, your final statement, please.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for my colleagues here. Thank you for the media here. I mean, for me, last few weeks has been really fulfilling. I mean, meeting with you, a lot of people, having long conversation. It has been most wonderful time in my entire life. When I'm asking for support for you, for me, I'm damn serious about it, right? I'm thinking about I'll be there for you. The only promise I can make is whatever decision you guys are going to take on June 2nd, I promise that I'll be there for you. I'm only a phone call away, right? You can call me anytime. I'll be there. I'll continue to work for you guys. I'll be there for you always. Thank you.
Siam Chandra from the Green Party, thank you very much. And of course, thank you to all of our candidates for this evening. We appreciate your willingness to share your views and, of course, positions. And once again, our Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas debate has featured the NDP's Sandy Shaw, the Liberals' Shuba Sandhill, and, of course, the Greens' Siam Chandra. Also running in Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas are Lee Wise for the New Blue Party, Frank Thiessen for the Ontario Party, and Fred Bennick of the PC Party. Now, regardless of who you support, please take the time to vote on or before Thursday, June 2nd, when polls will be open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Advanced polls are open now, and locations can be found online at elections.on.ca using your postal code. Next up on our debate schedule is Hamilton Center, airing live Tuesday night at 7 p.m. right here on Cable 14, cable14now.com, thespec.com, and of course all of our related social media platforms. Make sure to tweet us at Cable 14 or email election@cable14.com with all of your questions for Hamilton Center candidates, or any of our other debates that are happening next week. We got a lot of them. And be sure to watch Cable 14 on election night for up-to-date results and analysis. Our broadcast, it will begin at 8 p.m. Thanks again to our candidates here tonight, our panelists from the Hamilton Spectator, 900 CHML, CBC, CHCH, and the Hamilton Network. And thank you for watching the Hamilton Network's Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas Provincial Election Debate. I'm Mike Fortune. Enjoy the long weekend, and we'll see you again Tuesday night.